Hey guys, Frightener22 here, and welcome to another Cinema Sickness review. Today we're going to be taking a look at a recent indie dramedy that just came out on DVD and Blu-ray just a few weeks ago, and I just did a blind buy on it last week, and I just got around to watching it today. So we're going to be taking a look at 2011's Terri. Now, this film was one that I remember seeing an early trailer for, and of course it was playing, in the indie market of the major cities like New York, LA, and whatnot, and it never just got a theatrical release in any of my local theaters around here, which was, for the most part to be expected, although I do have one theater around me that tries to play as many art house or indie-esque films as they can, and they're normally pretty good with that, but Terri just kind of went below the radar, so I never saw it theatrically. So it came down to a pretty reasonable price, so I decided to do a blind buy on it because, the plot and the people involved in it just kind of intrigued me. So basically, this focuses on a 15-year-old named Terri, who's played by an up-and-coming new actor named Jacob Wazowski. And, he's obviously an outsider. He's an overweight kid who wears his pajamas to school along with a pair of Crocs. So he's definitely an outsider. He's a very repressed kid. And it isn't until he ends up ditching a number of classes that he's summoned to the principal's office, who's played by John C. Reilly in this film. So he's summoned to the principal's office to kind of understand what's going on in his life, and we learn that, over the course of the movie, that not only does he have, his weight and, the obvious going on that obviously, separates him from many of the other kids in the school, but he cares for his ailing uncle who has some sort of a debilitating memory disease. I'm not exactly sure. They don't really make it too clear, but he's normally heavily medicated and doesn't really remember what happens to him on, most given days. So this kid obviously has a lot on his plate, so it isn't until his interaction with the school principal that, we kind of got to see some bit of hope that might be in his life. So, not only is the interaction with the principal that kind of sets the whole story in motion, it's also, he befriends two other outsiders in the high school, a kid named Chad, who's constantly, picking out his hair and kind of balding because he just, is this weird outsider kid that picks his hair, and nobody really knows what his deal is. And then he befriends a girl named Heather, who, as you learn in the movie, something rather naughty and inappropriate happens to her during a class, actually, in the middle of school. So the whole school is kind of against her at one point, and Terri is the only one that kind of, is nice to her. So there becomes, a bit of a relationship amongst these, outsider misfits in the high school. So on the surface, this definitely seems like a film that I would be into because, it's themes that everybody can relate to at one point or another. Growing up in high school, we all were the outsider, or, maybe even in middle school or elementary school, we all had that moment where we felt just out of place and, maybe not welcomed by, most everybody. And I really like themes like that. I grew up loving a really awesome teen dramedy from '95 called Angus, and I just really like, films that kind of deal with this kind of subject matter. But overall, Terri just kind of misses the mark in a sense. It starts off, and I'm willing to kind of give it the chance for, what it is, but over the course of the film, it just kind of takes a turn for the little too weird. Now, I'm not one to judge films on them being like, oh, I didn't like it because it was just so out there. I can appreciate a film on all sorts of levels, but this film just kind of took a turn where they just kind of got a little too weird for its own good, and I think that they just kind of tried to play into the, oh, we're an indie film, just a little too hard. The thing that they kind of, drifted away from that I think would have made the film a whole lot better was the relationship that Terri was having with John C. Reilly's character in the film. It's kind of there, and John C. Reilly kind of passes in and out of the film, but it's that relationship that kind of starts and springboards Terri into all of the other relationships that he has with the two other student characters in the film. So it was kind of that relationship that I kind of wish that they would have, kind of got a little bit more down, down to the meat of that relationship. It would have just been a lot more fun and a much more pleasurable view for the viewer, because, I was going into this thinking that that really was, like, that relationship that he finds with the principal was gonna be kind of his saving grace in a very, dramatic, kind of comedic way. So I definitely was kind of fooled by this film, and, the end result kind of leaves the film off as, a mediocre film at best. Overall, this film wasn't really that great. It's funny at, a small number of times, but for the most part, it just kind of gets a little too weird for its own good, where you just kind of throw your hands up and you're like, what? So, overall, it, probably wasn't the best blind buy in the world, but I am happy that I did see it. So, overall, that's the most I can really say about this film. I think, some people, it's going to be kind of a love it or you hate it type of thing. That really seems to be the case with any indie film, so it's not going to be one that all people are going to love. I mean, I certainly didn't get a lot out of it, but, maybe you will. So if you guys are, looking for something new and current on the indie film circuit, try giving Terri a try. You might be surprised, but overall, I didn't really think much of it. Well, guys, that's all the time I got for you today. Thanks again for tuning in to cinemasickness.com, and I'll catch you tomorrow with another review. Thanks again for tuning in.